What's up, fight fans? Welcome to my channel. This is Johnny, and in today's video we're going to be going over the statistics that nobody talks about when mentioning this weekend's fights. The ones in the UK and the ones that just took place in Florida. Headlined by Amilcar and Patrice Volney. Guys, I'm going to go over what just took place. We're going to talk about the 4 fights that we featured on the channel this week, starting with the Nick Ball fight versus TJ Doheny, finishing with the main event here in Orlando, Florida. Guys, before I continue, I want to say thank you to all the new subscribers. Thank you to everybody who's been with me since day one. And if you haven't already, could you please hit subscribe? A lot of you guys who watch my content aren't aware that you haven't subscribed yet. Also, like this video and be sure to hit the notifications button. That'll alert you every time I create something that's new. Thank you. All right, guys, I had to wake up early this morning here in Sydney, Australia to catch the main event between Nick Ball and TJ Doheny. We knew going into this fight, Doheny was a huge underdog. We talked a lot about in the fight week about how he had only been finished once by Inoue, his last fight. And Ball has the nickname Wrecking Ball for a reason. If you watch this fight, you would have seen a guy who knew what he wanted to do. TJ boxed really well. TJ frustrated Ball early, so much so that Nick Ball kicked TJ. At the end of one of the rounds, TJ had Ball in the corner in a headlock, and out of frustration, this is all after the round ended, and TJ let the headlock go. Nick Ball goes and kicks him. I found out later on in the comment section that Nick used to do kickboxing or Muay Thai, so it makes sense because the kick was really technical. As the fight went on, you started to see the age of Doheny starting to show. He started fading. Ball's aggressive style, his body work, explosivity, and just his relentless pressure started wearing on Doheny, and you started to see that sort of outcome. It was only a matter of time, and Ball got what he wanted. When the 10th round ended after a flurry of punches, Doheny's face is swelled up. He looked like he might have had some damage on both eyes. Throughout the fight, he wasn't biting down on his mouthpiece, and Tony Del Vecchio in the corner for TJ, and the ref stopped it. Nick Ball stops a tough and gritty seasoned vet in TJ Doheny. After the 10th round ended, the corner stopped the fight. The last few rounds, TJ was taking a beating. Nick Ball keeps his belt. So you have Nick Ball who keeps his belt at 126. And moving forward, I wanted to ask the question now on the video, and I already asked the question on our community section on YouTube. With the champions there, you got Rafa Espinoza, you got Angelo Leo, you got Stephen Coolboy Fulton, and you got Nick Ball. Who do you guys feel is the top of that division at 126? Of the champions, who do you feel, if there was a round robin tournament, would come out victorious? We know Shushu Carrington's in the mix with a plethora of other guys at 126, and slowly that is an exciting division to pay attention to. Moving forward, I want to talk about the Jermaine Ortiz versus Yomar Alamo fight. We know before this fight went down, we did a whole analysis and fight prediction, and this was my prediction last week, how I thought this would go. For my prediction, I just think Jermaine Ortiz's class is going to be a bit too much. I think the problems defensively that some of Alamo's past opponents gave him in terms of not being able to get his offense off, I think Jermaine Ortiz is equally as good, or if not better than his past opponents in that market. I think that Ortiz will give his fans a little bit more to cheer for in terms of the offense. He's gonna come in there, he fills out the weight class pretty good. Side by side, they're the same height, same reach. I just think that the conditioning and the movement patterns of Jermaine Ortiz are gonna be a bit too much for Alamo to handle. I think Alamo is gonna fade as the fight goes on, and I'm taking Ortiz to win by decision. So I wasn't too far off. I felt like I was accurate on a couple things. Obviously the outcome, we picked Jermaine Ortiz to win by decision. He won by decision. I also told you guys, expect Jermaine Ortiz to come out more aggressive. He felt like he needed to prove a point to his fans and his naysayers, and we saw this. We still saw him be defensively sound and do his sort of atypical Jermaine Ortiz fight style. It's just that he had turned the volume up a little bit more on this fight, and Yomar Alamo's a tough guy. He's been in there with world quality competition, so more importantly, you saw Ortiz give moments of his aggression, but then he would back off, and Alamo caught him a few times late in the rounds, but this fight was never close. Ortiz won by a wide margin on all the scorecards. He almost doubled Alamo up throughout the fight with power punches and total punches landed, so I felt like it was a great performance. He had some damage swelling around the eye, but nothing major, and I thought it was interesting afterwards. Jermaine Ortiz grabs the microphone and he calls out either 2 champions from 140. One of them was Alberto Puello, and the other one was Gary Antoine Russell. Now, we know those two might fight each other because they fought before, and GAR took his only loss to Puello. But in terms of Jermaine Ortiz, what's next for him? He's been in there with some of the top guys. I thought he fought really well against Teofimo Lopez. Do you guys feel that this performance today against Yomar Alamo was enough to put him in a position for a world title fight? And in the comment section below, if not, who do you think he should fight next? Now, guys, it's no secret in the co-main event. I'm not even going to pull up statistics or show you too much footage on this. This went exactly how we thought it was going to go when we saw this fight being matched with Berlanga. We talked about all week, who is this guy? He was a former Olympian. He was a former prospect, but a decade ago. And the odds were 15-1 for him to even show up in this fight. And Berlanga did, kudos to him, even though he missed weight, came in yesterday 1.5 pounds over. After the fight, he talked about that he had the flu and his camp actually were thinking about canceling this fight. So from his own words, he said he battled through it. That's why he missed weight. It was business as usual, and he did take care of business. I was reading the comments today in some of the YouTube posts, and people were talking about, hey, his opponent has a puncher's chance. Puerto Rico versus Puerto Rico. Berlanga came in overweight. Maybe that shows he's distracted. The contract disputes with Mashroom, he's a free agent. Maybe all this has caught up to him. But, you know, as soon as the fight started, knockdown after knockdown, he didn't look distracted to me. And all you could do as a fighter is take care of business with whoever's in front of you in that given moment, and that's exactly what he did. He wanted to stay busy. Well, you could call that. Berlanga improves to 23-1 with 18 knockouts with a first-round stoppage of his fellow Puerto Rican opponent. In the comment section below right now, Edgar Berlanga, do we see him finally fight Caleb Plant? He called out Canelo Alvarez. He called out Jaime Munguia. Where he is in his maturation, who do you feel is the best matchup for Berlanga and his team? And more importantly, who do you think he should fight? Now in this main event, guys, it was an intriguing fight between two guys kind of on the opposite ends of their career. Ammo Williams, 28, versus Canadian Patrice Volney at 35. We know Volney only had one career loss in a controversial technical decision due to a cut. He could easily be undefeated. And of all the fights we covered this past week leading up into fight night, this was the closest there was to a 50-50 fight. When I gave you my prediction in fight week, this is what I said. Ammo, even though he already had a fight since Shiraz, you'd have to think he still has redemption on his mind. Not necessarily to himself, but to the fans and to the naysayers. So he's gonna not change anything. We're gonna see the same Ammo Williams, that aggressive southpaw who's gonna go out on a shield. Now, here's my prediction. When it's a close fight, and I always talk about this, and if there's two gunslingers, two sluggers, I'm not always leaning on the side of experience in terms of round experience. The Canadian has that. He's older by almost 8 years. I'm gonna go with momentum, and I'm gonna go with the youth on this one. I'm taking Ammo Williams to have an impressive victory. I'm taking Ammo Williams to be too much. His pressure, his aggressive southpaw style. And I gotta be honest, I did have my wallet and my heart with Ammo Williams, but this was a close fight. He didn't get the knockout, but he got the decision. And I feel the only controversial thing about this decision was that one of the judges gave Ammo 118 to 110, which was totally erroneous. This was a lot closer than that. The two other judges scored at 116 to 112, which seems a bit fair, and then 115 to 113. That's how I had it. Going into the 12th round, it was still a coin flip. Volny is tall and long for the division. Bit of a slow starter, I feel. If he rewatches this tape, he's gonna say he should have started off a little bit sooner, maybe put the pressure on a little bit more. He has that tricky high guard, kind of reminded me of Winky Wright a bit in terms of taking a lot off of his hands and then looking to counter. And I just feel he didn't quite do enough in the later rounds. Mid rounds, he looked good. I scored some of those mid rounds for him, and I'm not mad about the decision. No means is this a robbery. I did have Ammo winning, but 118 to 110 is atrocious scoring. So with that in mind, you'd have to think Volny would have had to go in there to the Caribe Royale and get a knockout if he was going to leave victorious. Guys, this was a fun fight card to cover. You know, we're doing more and more on the channel of trying to cover fights every week and not just the big fights. Stay tuned, because this following weekend in Sydney, guess what? We just found out last week that that fight card is going to be under the Riyadh season fight card. I'm talking about Yordav versus Kambosos Jr. There's a plethora of other fun fights on that card, including Brown versus Sky Nicholson and some other fighters that I'm going to feature this week. So be sure to stay tuned to the channel. I appreciate you. Nick Ball stops a tough and gritty seasoned vet in TJ Doheny. After the 10th round ended, the corner stopped the fight. The last few rounds, TJ was taking a beating. Nick Ball keeps his belt. He Wanted to stay busy? Well, you could call that. Berlanga improves to 23-1 with 18 knockouts with a first-round stoppage of his fellow Puerto Rican opponent.
Volny, 118-110. Edgar Berlanga, 116-112. Michael Ross scored this bout 115-113.
Too early for him to get hit like that. Right on the chin. You can see he's wobbling.
45 seconds